It's your boy Biz, and I am back. Now, I know it's been a minute since I posted my last video. I think the last one was like I believe it was like a podcast. But I know it's been a minute. It's been like a year, almost two. I know you guys been wondering where I've been at. I took a little hiatus, doing a couple of things, a couple things got in the way, but still going on about it. But I am back, which I'll be posting up some more videos. But I know, as I could tell by the title of the video, yeah, I did buy a car with 100,000 miles. That's no joke. I just did that. Now I'm gonna get into it and everything. Now, if you guys don't want to hear the background, if you just want to skip to the part where I show you the vehicle that I got, but in any case, let's get into it. I'm just going to show some background footage. I know it's probably going to take a minute for me to go through everything. Enjoy the background footage, and I'm going to get back to you guys. Let's get it. Let's get into it now. In case, well, some of you may know, some of you may not know, but I'm a huge Dodge Charger fan. Now, like just the way they look, you know what I mean? From the 15 and up. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't really like the 2012s, like I don't know what gen they are. I like the newer gen models, not the electric model, but the newer gen, if you know what I'm talking about. But I'm just a huge Charger fan. So starting way back, I have a Chevy Cruze, or I did have a Chevy Cruze, still have it, but I got a Chevy Cruze, paid that off, right? And for a while now, since like 2017, I've always wanted just like any kind of Charge, you know what I mean? And it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't really matter what kind I want it, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? I just like how they look. You know what I mean? So 2020, I paid my Chevy off, right? And so I'm thinking, maybe, I've got a new job, because at that time, when I bought my Chevy Cruze, I was at a different job, a lower paying job. And in 2020, I'm at a way higher paying job. So it's like, I could, probably, look at a couple options, you know what I mean? So kind of fast forward a little bit, it's 2020, I end up buying a Charger, it's a little SXT, it's a V6, you know what I mean? And I really like it too. I really enjoyed that car. And I'm going to post up a picture of actually what really started me on this journey, because I wasn't even really thinking about buying a car, you know what I mean? Like, not having a car payment is actually like amazing. In case y'all don't know, it's very amazing not having a car payment. I'm paying a car fully off and just not having to worry about it is like an amazing feeling. So I was not necessarily thinking about getting right back into a car payment, but I don't know, something just caught my attention. I just looked up online. I think I seen like an ad or something like that, and it was just like a Charger. It was just like a hell-raising Charger. I'm gonna show a picture of it. I only have one picture left because, as you guys may know, I've actually looked at this car. I was like, I actually want this car. Got a whole, loan amount for whatever, had the talked to the dude like 2 days prior. Told me, I want to come down and look at it and everything. Never even drove a Charger ever at that point in my life. So I was like, super excited, you know what I mean? About to go and try this car. Get down to the dealership. It's a Dodge dealership, of course. In hindsight, that was like a terrible idea. But anyway, it was a Dodge dealership. Get down there. The price was like it was a 2020 for like 20,000, you know what I mean? And I get it's XXC, you know what I mean? It's still kind of up there. But, at the time, I just wanted a Charger, you know what I mean? It was a nice looking Charger, tinted, spoiler, nice rims, everything, you know what I mean? And I get down there, it was like, I don't know, like 20,000. After tax, it came to like 24, you know what I mean? Like right there at my loan amount. So I was, all right, cool, that's fine. I can put a little bit down. And then like, when I get there, they were just doing like some sketchy stuff. Dudes were like looking at the car, like opening up the hood and stuff like that. And then they ended up adding like another $6,000 charge to it. And we were just like, no, we don't want that, take it off. And they refused to do it. So end up leaving it. You know what I mean? And that's really, that car, the very first car, even like when I test drove it too, like even like first driving from like a Cruze to like a Charger, like they're not lying. They do like both. Like that feels like a huge car. Like it's not a huge car, but like it's a huge car. You know what I mean? Like they do feel like, I don't know, like it's hard to explain, but you feel like you're sitting up high, but you're not. You know what I mean? Like that was like the first time driving one. You know what I mean? So I was like, you know what? All right, that's fine. You know what I mean? Just forget it. It was like from where I was at, it was like a 2.5, 3 hour drive, like 3 hour, 15-minute drive. So it was just like, yeah, it was kind of a little disappointing there. But I mean, at that point, we already made the drove. We have the money in hand. You know what I mean? I'm gonna look at other options. You know what I mean? So, I'm going from, it was like in Leesburg. Then I went to like, I think it was like a 2 hours out of like Lake City. And I'm finding one there. It didn't really work out. And then on my way back home, because it was like I left home around like 11 o'clock, and at this point it's like 6 o'clock. You know what I mean? Going back home, and we ended up finding they believe it was like a Nissan. Oh no, a Nissan or a Ford dealership. They end up, saying, "Hey, yeah, we got one. We don't do that fees, none of that. This is the price after tax. This is what it's going to be." And then dude was actually pretty cool about it. You know what I mean? He, told us, I mean, we're about to close in like an hour and a half, but no, we can get it. They can get us in and out. And got there, and everything was all right. Looked at it. I mean, at that point, like I knew what kind of car I wanted. You know what I mean? This is kind of where I don't know, where I guess you could say things kind of fate kind of decides itself, because it's like at this point I can either like say, hey, the car didn't work out, I could just just hold on, you know what I mean, like just wait, save up or whatever, and just find like another car really nice that I really wanted, that like like a Charger, you know what I mean. But it was just basically what I got was I still an XST, you know what I mean. I wasn't going any higher because I think like and at the time wasn't really like, I kind of researched different charts, but I didn't really actually go in depth in the research, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like I know there are chargers and like different spec. I know there's like a Hellcat, I know there's Scats and stuff like that. But I didn't realize there are like so many different levels. So like there's like SXT, there's a GT, there's a RT, then it goes into Scat. I'm other just like, Hellcat, Scat, and there's like just chargers. You know what I mean? And so me and I'm getting like the the base trim, what I mean, like the base, like the most basic trim, like even like the color and like even the the style, like just the basic steel rims, you know what I mean, all white, no tint, no spoiler, nothing, just it was pretty much just like a basic char, you know what I mean. And so I told myself, all right, that's fine, I still want a Charger, at the end of the day, it's a Charger because that's what I wanted, you know what I mean. I wasn't, that's at the end of the day I was going to get a Charger, you know what I mean. That's how I was telling myself, low key. But sorry about that. But and that's what I'm getting. I'm gonna show a picture of basically what it looks like. Like this isn't my Charger, but this is literally like what my car looked like. You know what I mean? Like 100%. And so I told myself, I can get it. I can always just modify, upgrade it, do what I ever need to. You know what I mean? And so, and that's pretty much what I did. I'm gonna show you a picture of what it started off, and then what it like the first, within like the first, I think like month or two of me getting the car, like all the modifications I put onto it, which in hindsight, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, because I'm gonna get into it later on, but I mean, if I knew I was getting another car, I would say this is pretty much like a terrible idea because you're just putting money into it. But like, and at then I was like, okay, well, I got this car now. It's gonna be mine. It's time to modify. Pretty much like how I wanted to. You know what I mean? And how I really wanted to look like, and that's how I got it to be pretty much. So got to where I wanted to look like, and still like with all the stuff that I added onto it, everything that I put on money wise and everything, for some reason it just still wasn't. I don't know. Even John, for like I got the car in like May of 2025, right? So we kind of sped up a little bit. So it was 2025, and uh is it? Yeah, I'm sorry about that. So it's May of 2025, and that's when I bought the car. And I think we're in like, I don't know, let's say like March, April-ish. Okay? So it's like almost a year, not even a full year yet, right? So sitting there, and I drive it, and it's a nice car too. You know what I mean? I got I did like a muffler delete, of course. I got I got to do the muffler delete, even on the V6. I'm not hating on a V6 guy, but we got to do the muffler delete. You know what I mean? You got to make it sound a little more have some tone to it. You know what I mean? So. And I'm not hating on no V6 guys or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like, if at the end of the day, it's your car, you're paying for it. You know what I mean? Like, you do whatever you want to, and that's what I did. I modified to where what I wanted to make it look like. And I'm not like an up badge or anything now. Up badge is kind of like a different thing now. It depends on how you look at it. I mean, like I said, at the end of the day, it's your car. You can do whatever you want with it. But like, me personally, I wouldn't, I'm not sticking, Hellcat or Scat Pack badge, you know what I mean, on an SXT or anything like that. I wouldn't even do it with like even an RT. I wouldn't put, SXT up bash or RT or RT up bash, Scat Cat, whatever, I mean? I don't know. I just don't feel, it just feels weird doing that. You know what I mean? I'd rather like earn myself up to that actual spot than it's kind of just saying, oh, hey, look what my car could be. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But as far as like, even, you guys are probably telling me that, well, you put on, fucking, the spoiler and the hood and the bumper and everything. And then, yeah, I mean, yeah, you can, that's not really, I guess you could say you kind of up badging there, but it's not really up badging. I'm not necessarily putting, actual badges on the car. Those are just simple modifications. You know what I mean? Like there are even like RTs that come with like that come with the regular Dodge. I don't know what you want to call. I'm just gonna call it the Dodge. The regular bumper, whatever. The one that looks like a cop car, and then there's one actually like the more modern one with the not with the nostrils, but the one with the wide body kind of looking grill. If you know what I'm talking about. But so I mean, you can have different grills and stuff on different trims and stuff. But that's how I wanted to. That's how I wanted to mod my car to kind of make it look like a scab, but I didn't want to make it like put it like scab badge on, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? And so besides like the red eye hood, you know what I mean? But and that's a whole nother story. You know what I mean? When I first got the car, I ended up buying like a whole bunch of I got like a hood. The hood came in it was bent, so I had to end up sending it back. And like literally just now, like I want to say like a few months ago, I sent that hood back to the people on eBay or whatever, and like I don't know, July or June of 2025, and then in like March or April they sent like the hood back because I guess the post office couldn't find the address. So I mean, it was that was a whole nother story in itself. That was just a whole sketchy thing. I'm still kind of PTSD about ordering off of eBay. So, but I ended up getting the hood, so I ended up kind of fixing the hood, putting it on the car, and even then, it just didn't feel right. 'Cause, it was like the hood was still kind of messed up. You know what I mean? I'm like riding around in like a V6 with like a red eye hood that's like kind of bent. It was like, oh my gosh. You know what I mean? But I mean, at the end of the day, it still looked nice. So, I mean, I still like, you can't really tell. I mean, you can try to see if I can find some pictures on my phone. So you can kind of tell that where the hinges were kind of bent, but you can't really tell a lot though. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it did still look kind of nice though. And then and just kind of leads us to where like I'm in March, April, just any other day, just really just any other day, looking through my email, and it just so happens that one of my banks because I bank with two different credit unions, and one of them, not the ones that I'm actually finance with the car, with the SXT, but another one, they actually sent me an offer. It was a pre-approval basically, and I had to read through this very carefully because, like, well, I mean, I just bought a car, so I don't really need this. But I read through it, and in case you guys didn't know, pre-approval, in their terms, with this credit union, apparently it was just like an auto loan that they didn't necessarily pull my credit, and I kind of asked them about this too because I was like, hey, this is the thing where you pull my credit, and how all this work out. And they said no, it's just based off my income and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So. I made that very clear that I didn't want none of my credit pulled or anything of that, and just to be on the safe side, you know what I mean? Because I don't want to. I mean, I just bought a car. Why would I want to ran again? That doesn't make any sense. But you see a lot of the stuff that I did here didn't really make a lot of sense. But anyway, so I asked him that, and you said, yeah, it was just based off of your income and stuff. It's like a pre-approval draft, in case you guys know what that is. And it said it didn't, they don't run your credit or anything like that. It's a certain up to this amount up to this year. All the stipulations that comes like a regular auto loan. You know what I mean? And so I looked at that, and I looked at the amount, and it was a pretty hefty amount. I'm not gonna lie to you, and at the same time, looking like, well, I mean, I just bought a car, you know what I mean? Like literally less than a year ago. So it's like, I don't know. So it doesn't really help me at this point to even look at this. You know what I mean? Back in my mind, say, yeah, well, just another offer, that's, what credit unions, banks and stuff like that do, you know what I mean? But on the other side, I'm also thinking, well, if I'm not happy in the vehicle that I'm in now, why not just trade, the vehicle in? And now to a lot of people in there, you guys are just kind of scratching your head and kind of just thinking like, wow, why would you trade in a, vehicle? Like trading in a vehicle right after you bought it is like probably one of the worst things you could do, considering the fact that like the depreciation value is like, it's just, it's ridiculous. You know what I mean? And so, and I looked into that. I looked into, the LTV, the loan of value. Well, before that, I looked into, what the value of my car is, how much I would, get back, the amount that I still owe, stuff like that. I was like, okay, well, I have to probably save around this amount. And so I looked at cars that I want, pretty much my dream car, I would say. And I looked at it, I was like, okay, well, if this is something I'm going to do, something I'm going to go probably much, even more in debt. And, why not just get the car that you actually want? You know what I mean? I've pretty much been wanting this car since 2017. So I went, and for the next, 2 months, worked nonstop, just straight overtime, and saved up about $2,500. I know it's probably not a lot to some people, but at that time, that's all I could pretty much say, because after that 2 months, it just so happens that they actually cut overtime. So I was like, all right, well, instead of saving, like $500, $750 each check, I'll cut down to maybe like a couple hundred, you know what I mean? Just trying to save. And on top of the loan is only valid for 60 days. So, and, I remember when I first went to actually go cash, the check, I thought I, found the car that I wanted, and went there, agreed on a price. I sent them, the pictures, because, the place I was going to, I was literally looking all around Florida. So the place was in Orlando, you know what I mean? I was looking everywhere, Miami, fucking Orlando. I was calling people in Utah, see if they can ship the car here. You know what I mean? Talking to people in Texas, people in New Jersey, West Virginia. I was literally planning a trip to West Virginia, which is wild. That's how serious I was about this. You know what I mean? I was my dad set on getting this car. You know what I mean? So I called him. You know what I mean? I said, hey, I sent in the trade pictures of my car. You know what I mean? All this is what's wrong with this. Mechanically fine. Just a few just a few things wrong with it. And, I think what really hurt me was, as you can tell by the picture, my car was originally white, but I got the car painted. Now, I got the whole outside painted, but the dudes were telling me at, the paint shop that, well, we can paint the whole car for this price. And I was like, okay, that's a lot, but okay, I'll do it. But the door panel is going to be $200. I was like, okay, well, just go ahead, you can add on. But it's hey, but it's $200 each door panel. So I was like, all right, so with the $1,500, because I think, it was less because I didn't tell them to put on the hood because the hood was bent, but it was $1,500 to get the whole car painted, and then it was another $800 on top of get all the door panels. So I think that's where I don't want to say I messed up. Like I said at the time, I just planned on keeping the car, but I didn't get the door panels painted, so the car on the outside looked black, but when you open the door, you can see where the car was white. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. And so I even sent the people the pictures of that and everything. I sent them everything. I told them hey, this is all that, nothing wrong, just, the paint and, bumper, hood, and stuff like that. So, and get there, agreed on the price. And then as we're going in, I test drove their car. It was nice. That was actually the first time I actually drove this kind of car too, which was crazy. I was just damn, dude. I was when I first, got into that car, I was I'm definitely buying one of these. You know what I mean? And so agreed on the price and everything, test drove it, got back in. He was oh, he opened his side of the door. He was oh, I didn't know it was painted. And I was wait, what? And, I sent you pictures and everything. And he was oh yeah, I didn't know that. I must have didn't see that. And he showed me his little messages of all the stuff I sent him. And it just so happens that one picture didn't send, but all the other pictures sent, which was crazy. So it's all right, well, what are we going to do now? He's well, I'm going to have to, long story short, the deal didn't go through because they ended up taking some off my trade, and then they didn't want to work on the price. And I thought, all right, well, I would just have in hindsight, not the best idea. I was hey, I would just put the extra $1,000 on a credit card. That's fine. You know what I mean? Which to y'all, not a really good idea. You know what I mean? Depends how much money you have, and if you can pay it off quick enough, sure. But just putting more debt on a credit card is never a good idea. But moving on. I told him, hey, I would just do that. And then, and I'm going to, the ViStar, because that's why I was going with the ViStar in Orlando. And they ended up telling me, just the LTV was way too low. And that's when I figured out, what the LTV, the loan to value is. It can't be over 150%. They're charging this amount for the car, but the car is really only worth this amount off I believe it's retail value, I want to say. Yeah, retail value, and the amount you're trying to get financed, it's over the 150%. So couldn't get that one. And so literally that was the first time literally driving to Orlando, 2.5 hour drive, and didn't end up getting it, right? So ended up saving some more, I think it was at 25. No, at that time I was looking $2,000, $1,800, in a couple weeks past, I was still calling dealerships and everything. calling some in Alabama, some in Georgia, pretty cool guys too, like in case you guys don't know, you can always negotiate over the phone. You know what I mean? You don't have to go in and always go into a dealership, let them peer pressure, pulling your credit or, doing whatever they do, or buying a car, just you can always talk over the phone and negotiate over the phone. So keep that in mind. But I'm calling around and stuff, and I found one car that I was like, okay, well, this is nice, you know what I mean? A little up there in miles. I mean, and honestly, with my price range, a lot of them are kind of in that, 80 to like around 90,000 mile range. So, I mean, I knew I was going to get a high mileage car, but I was also kind of like inspecting it from like, I don't want to say from a distance. I'm not a mechanic, so I don't really know a lot about, the car stuff, but just doing like extensive research videos and just groups and just seeing how these cars run, what to look out for. Like, there are a lot that, like, hey, it looks nice on the outside, but like you say, hey, let me see, send me like a video of the engine running, you know what I mean? Like that. And some of them did, and some of them just like sketchy enough, didn't want to do it, which is like crazy. So it's like, you got to watch out for that. There's only like, I could say like a handful of like dealerships like, hey, we'll send you this video, we'll do this. They will like willing to work with you 100% of the way, you know what I mean? And the ones that are willing to do that, some of them are good, but you're like, some of them like, hey, it was like nice, working with you and everything, but not only is the price wrong, but like, it's just, I can definitely tell like there's something wrong with this car, but like, I appreciate you working with me. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a lot of those. That's really what's going on past like couple months. I was trying to look for, this kind of car, you know what I mean? And I get it too. Like, they're just trying to sell the car, but like, I can clearly see like, just the way it sounds, that price range, like, it's like, you know what I mean? So, and I ended up finding one, I was like, okay, it's kind of up there in mileage, I don't know. It looks nice, they're working with me, send a picture or a video of the engine and everything, Well, all right, well, it sounds like it doesn't have, a thing that I was looking for, a sound I was looking for. So it doesn't have that, so that's good. And so I was like, all right, well, I've already been in Orlando once. I mean, it's a 2-hour drive. I mean, it's not that bad. If I'm being honest, not that bad. I mean, I know the way at this point. So I was like, hey, it was another dealership in Orlando, by the way. So I was like, hey, I'll come down there, I'll take a look. We agree on this price. This is good. And this time I went into it. I even called my bank and said, hey, this is the bill of sale, that they're giving me. Is the LTV good on this? And they're like, hey, yeah, this is good. I even called my bank beforehand. I even took that drive just to be sure like this deal can even go through in the first place. You know what I mean? They're like, yeah, this is good. You know what I mean? Called insurance, everything. I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be, like, it's like $30-$40 more, I think. Something, all right, that's cool. Get down there, took the drive and get down there, start doing all the, the paper and stuff. And all of a sudden, one of them, financial dudes come down there. And the dude was just like, yeah, this is way off. The LTV is like 100 and, like almost like 200%. I'm like, are you for real? And like, I'm just like, at this point, I'm not even disappointed. At this point, I'm just kind of like mad. Like, I'm just like pissed off at this point. You know what I mean? Because like, I talked to you guys for like a whole, like, 2 hours, you know what I mean? Through text and over the phone, called my bank. They said it was good, and apparently, like, I guess like what, one of the dudes, I guess they went off like a different number. And so I think they went off like a trade number or like some kind of, I don't know what they went off of, or like a different VIN. And so apparently he was like, yeah, this is the deal wouldn't work out. You have to come up with another, like $7,000. I was like, yeah, I'm just not doing that. You know what I mean? I'm just simply not doing that. So I just grabbed my shit and I left. Simple. And that shit sucks. Cause like, it's like, this is, like those trips, I mean, I'm going down there back and forth to Orlando, taking that drive and putting more miles on my car that I got to trade in. So it's like, that's like what, 200 miles down there. So it's like 400 miles down and back. So it's 800 miles added onto my car. Like, I'm just like, wow, dude, like, just like beyond mad at dealerships are just like, I don't really know. So it's like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. You know what I mean? And so went up there, got my car, and I just simply just went home. And I'm gonna put up a message because I was so mad that I was literally just like calling, dealerships around the area. Just no, I'll get into a fucking car. I don't really care at this point. You know what I mean? Just looking at different ones, and I'm gonna show you like just a little video, like a message of like one of the conversations that I really had with a dealership that was around in the area. You guys let me know if I'm wrong or or is he wrong? Like, who's wrong in this conversation? You know what I mean? I was like, wow, dude, like, I just had this freaking this experience at this dealership, and I'm talking to one of these other dudes. It's like, dude, I have like, I don't know, dude. Dealership dudes are just like something else. But anyway, I went back on, went home, whatever. It's all good. And at that point, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I honestly just gave up. I'm not gonna lie to you. I kind of just gave up because I was like, damn, dude, like, and even like I didn't really give up, but like at that point I was like, yeah, I'm just like, because I can't really, like, I can save still, but it'll be like increments of like really, really small, so I can still save, but like at that point all I could do was just like save and just still look around. But like at that point they're literally like, for that price range, for that kind of car, within like a certain amount of like miles, not like miles on the car, but like miles, like traveling distance, like it was literally slim to none. Like, it was honestly like extremely slim to none. Like, I don't think you guys understand. Like, and I was looking at like Facebook, I was looking at like 10 different car apps on my phone. I was looking at just like straight up on Google, you know what I mean? I was like looking at different like straight up dealerships, like this kind of like car, and looking at all the dealerships, you know what I mean? Like, it was like, and it was just like almost slim to none, you know what I mean? So, at that point, I was like, I'll just save, you know what I mean? I have $2,500 or something. That's good. I have money in my pocket. That's what's up. So, I'll just like save, you know what I mean? I had like, I don't know, probably like still had like 30 days on the little auto loan or whatever, the draft. So, I still had time, you know what I mean? Just have to just look or whatever. And so, I think like the next day, one of the dudes called me. He's like, hey, yeah, I was going over the, all the stuff that, we're going over yesterday. And it was just like, yeah, they gave you the wrong number. And I was like, they gave me the wrong number? It's like, yeah, the first number was correct, but when you got there and the guy gave you, when he was going over it, that guy was going off a different number. So, like, okay, so what number are we going off of? And like, dude, just going back and forth, talking numbers and everything, ended up being like the price that around it should be, you know what I mean? I even told him like, hey man, for even making me drive down there, I already went down like 3 times, you know what I mean? Coming down there, if I go and get that car, it'll be a 3rd time. So like, you're gonna have to take like, some money off. So I'll tell him to take 3,000 off, you know what I mean? Take 3K off and give me more in my trade. And, it was at a point where he was just like, he's like, yeah, I don't know if I'm not going to be able to run this through, you know what I mean? I'll go check with my boss. I was like, hey, if you run the numbers to your boss, because you want to sell the car, I started kind of, not really teasing, but, kind of antagonizing. At this point, I'm not going to lie to you, I'm kind of mad. So I'm not, at that point, I really want to buy the car. I just want to see what they would say, because I'm just saying, just throwing numbers. I didn't really think they're going to take that much off, or will they give me more for my trade? I didn't really think that. I just want to say that because I was really mad. Kind of pissed off at him, so I just want to just throw kind of lowball numbers at me, you know what I mean? So I was like, just do this, give more for my trade, fill it up with gas, you know what I mean? We'll see. And I'll come down there and get the car. I was like, I'll have to run it by, how they do. I'll have to run it by the guy, I don't know if he's going to let me approve this, you know what I mean? I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. Just run it by and see what he says. And I just hung up, you know what I mean? I'll say about 30 minutes later, he calls me back. He's like, yeah, I can't give you 3,000. He gave me like $2,500, but he did give me like a lot more for my trade. Like almost like, I think like a good value. I think off of Kelly Blue Boy. So I'm not gonna lie, he did give me a good, kind of price for my, for my trade. I'm not gonna lie to you, considering, the kind of the hood was bent, I've got to mention too, at this time when I was looking for cars, like right when I started looking at cars, like my bumper kind of started coming off, like kind of sagging, which was like, God damn, this is, I tried lifting it up. I tried pushing it back in. It just literally wouldn't stay. It's not an OEM, so I kind of expected after a while. But like, really, right when I'm looking at, kind of trading cars and, kind of looking at car, you want to fall off. But it's whatever, But he said, yeah, no, they give me a pretty decent value for my trade. So, I told him, all right, well, and at that point, he kind of called my bluff now because like, he kind of did what I told him he was going to do. And it's like, I was like, I don't know now. It was like, all I had to do, I had 25 down, and the only down thing is I had to put like some more down. You know what I mean? Now, here's what I tell people. I could have been patient at this point and could have been like, yeah, no, thank you. You know what I mean? I'll just think about it, probably saved up more money. But like I said, at that time, with my just the way my working situation is, I wouldn't be able to save a lot at a time. So it would have probably taken me like I had like 30 days left on the loan. Probably like in those 30 days, I probably could have saved her like maybe 500. You know what I mean? And I would need like another like, I don't know, I think it was like 2,000 more. You know what I mean? So I was like, all right, it's a car I want. Drives good. It looks like it was kept up, decently. So I mean, decently, it looked like it was kept up. Carfax, not the best. Just a couple minors, but nothing crazy. Just a few minor accidents, but nothing crazy. Just a few, minors from the back. A little up there in mileage, as y'all could tell by the video. And I was thinking, you know what? And I was with my sister at my time too. She was in the car, listening to the whole conversation. Like, you know what? I'll think about it. I can't remember what I said, but I said, listen, you fill up with gas, and I'll come down there and I'll come down there and get it and everything. You know what I mean? Because like at that price, he went up the LTV and everything with me. He made sure 100% it was correct. It was like right there at it. So I was like, all right, well, I'll think about it. You know what I mean? And so I just left it at that. And I was just thinking about it because it's like, damn, like I was just thinking about like what's going to happen in the future if I buy this car. You know what I mean? Like what's going to maintenance, you know what I mean? The gas, you know what I mean? Like, because at the time of making this video, gas is no joke right now. It is not funny. Gas right now is not funny. So, I mean, I was thinking about that, man, on top of like, I have money down, but I'm going to have to put some, I'm going to have to put some on a credit card. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to have to do that. You know what I mean? I could do it, I mean? It's not I'm going to max out my credit card. I wasn't doing none of that. I mean, I still had, money left on it, but it's just like, the principle of just doing that and then having to pay, the interest and have to, it's a lot, I mean, no one wants to put, that much on a credit card, especially me, I mean, I only have one credit card. So, I mean, I didn't want to have to do that, you know what I mean? So I was like, all right, if I'm willing to, if this is the car you want, pretty much like, like I said, it's like my dream car, you know what I mean? It's literally everything that like I should have gotten in the first place. So it's like, honestly, I was just myself, just do it. You know what I mean? Like money comes and money goes. You know what I mean? That's always tell myself, you know what I mean? Like, people always, stuck up on, money and saving. And I get that too. It's definitely a good thing to do. But like, yeah, we only have one life, one I live. You know what I mean? So I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I told him, hey, I'll come down there tomorrow, fill it up with gas, and I'm coming down there to buy it. And that's what happened. I went down there and my sister, shout out to my sister coming out there with me to go pick up this amazing car. So went down there, everything went right, and I picked it up, traded in the car. I'm gonna show you a picture of what my S6C looked like when I traded her in. It was I had to get one last picture with her, you know what I mean? And so and that's where Lisa's at right now. And so that leads us here to what I traded my S6T for. 2022 S6T for 2016 Dodge Charger Scat Pack. Now, just in case y'all thought I was lying, we really have a 111 311 on the dash right now. I mean, it's not really anything to flex about. 100,000 is definitely nothing to flex about, but just letting y'all know I did buy, a Scat with 100,000 miles on it. So we'll see. We'll load these performance pages real quick, see when those load. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. You know what I mean? Like I said, people highly recommend not buying these cars at 100,000. Hell, not even at 60,000. People say, the max will buy one of these cars like at 30,000 miles. So I mean, I bought mine 3 times that. So but we'll see. Hopefully I'm just gonna record, my journey. See what happens. From here on out. I got warranty. I got Gap on it. I mean, overall, my overall payment's only like what, $40 more, and that's with the the Gap and warranty and everything. So my eyes, I really didn't go out a lot, you know what I mean? But we'll see, you know what I mean? See how it goes. Like I said if he'll recommend not buying these cars high mileage, but I did anyway. So and just really, you know, really document, you know, basically like, you know, what owning a Scat with high mileage really is like, you know what I mean? And just, you know, the maintenance on it too. You know, I got a couple things replaced, you know, a couple things maintenance wise that I did a couple, you know, really short, you know, little videos on it. So I'm gonna put those out, you know, just see, you know, see how those do. Not really in depth, you know what I mean? There's better tutorials out there on how to do it, but it was just a little something. You know, I don't really see a lot of 392 videos out there, so I'm gonna try to, you know, post some more out there, you know, see how it goes. But y'all let me know. All right, it's your boy Biz. We out here.